Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up a site definition and how to FTP using Adobe Dreamweaver CS6, and I'm specifically showing you on Windows 7 machine right now. So the first thing that I always do before I set up a site definition is I decide where on my computer I want to store my web files. So I tend to always put mine in the same location, so in my documents I have a folder called My Website. You can decide where you want to store your files, whether it's your desktop or some other folder organization system, but the key is that it's best not to move it around. So wherever you want to store your files, whether it's in your Dropbox or somewhere else, you want to leave it as be once you set it up. I'm going to select new folder. I'm going to call this UC Denver, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to create a folder for this class 5670. You can imagine creating folders for different courses. So within this course, I'm going to create a folder for the first website assignment, and then I'm going to go ahead and create some folders for each of the other assignments. So just like that, I've created individual folders for each one of the assignments, the main assignments that is, and then I always tend to have a habit of opening each folder, because I treat each assignment as its own kind of website, is I always have a folder for CSS and images. It happens that the first website doesn't require an external CSS file, so I'm not going to add one there, but just to show you what I'm thinking here is in the second website folder is it's always good practice just to by default set up a new folder for CSS and images. And in fact, even though with the first one I know the assignment doesn't require it, just good practice, always have it there because it reminds you to be intentional about where you place files. So I'm going to close that. So now I know where I want to store my files. In Dreamweaver CS6, I'm going to go to Site, New Site, and I'm going to call this 5670. You can imagine creating one of these for each course. Some people like to just set up a general one called Ure. In this case, I'm going to just do one for 5670, and I'm going to click on the folder, and I'm going to go to my documents, my websites, my UC Denver, in the 5670 folder and hit select. And I can verify it there, and that's basically saying that I'm going to keep all my files there. That looks great. I'm going to now hit server. I'm going to hit this plus sign. I'm going to call this 5670. Now this is an important step. Ure requires you to secure FTP, so you have to SFTP. Not all web servers are that way. So you type in ure.ucdenver.edu. You do not want http:/ or www. You want it just how I have it. Port 22. Your Ure username and your password. Your Ure password. And you remember that you can change that with the link in eCollege, and that every 90 days you have to change it. Ure is very moody about this, so and you forget over time. And so the first thing when you get an error with connection is think about whether your password is up to date. So I'm going to hit test, and it says I was successful, so that looks great. Then under root directory, I'm going to put public _HTML/. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit save, and so now if you go over to Window and make sure you have File selected checked, and I do, you'll see over here on the right that you have this little Files area. I like to hit this Expand option here. And then up here in the show, if you have different sites, and I do, you can see them. You want to make sure you have the one you just created, and then hit this little, it looks like a plug, to connect to the server. And then here you can see all the files that I have on my web space. And so you can see my web space, it gives this kind of path, and it's basically just the way that the server is set up, is that it has a folder called student, and then it separates them by initial, first name, A, B, C, etc. I'm in P, and then you can see my username, and then my folder, public _HTML, and so that looks great. And so then to basically FTP something, in this case I already have these folders set up, and so right now you can see that I have a file in my first web called Hello World. To show you that, if we go to ure.ucdenver.edu, might have gotten this wrong. Let's see if that's, nope, that's right. So you can see that I have this file called Hello World in my first web folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease this and I'm going to create a new file. Bring this up, make sure I have HTML selected, and I tend to use doc type as HTML5 now. I hit create. And so the first assignment is resume, and so I'm not going to spend all the time showing you what a resume looks like. We already have the tutorial for that, but I'm going to save this as resume.html, and I'm going to save this in my first website folder. I'm going to hit save. Now, you can work just within here if you want, and you can even use these buttons depending on how you've set up your assignment. But right now, if I put it up, it's just going to put it at the root level where I want it actually in my first web folder. So I'm going to expand, I'm going to hit refresh, and if I click this in first website, I can see the folder that I can see, the resume.html file I just created. I'm going to drag this over and hit drop it in first web, and it says, do I want to upload any dependent files? In this case, there are none. But images and CSS, those are all considered dependent files. So there are times you'd say yes. In this case, I'm just going to select no. So now if I go back to my browser and I type in resume.html and hit enter, you can see there's the file I just created and I just uploaded. And so it's in my public _HTML, which you can't see. It's technically behind the scenes. It looks like this, but the way the server's set up is it looks within that folder, and so it's looking for that. Just like that, I created a site definition with dreamweavercs6. I created my first web page and I saved it, and then I uploaded it. In other words, I FTP'd it, actually using SFTP to the URA server. Thanks.